Wearing a seatbelt is a terrible idea.
Hey, it's a terrible, terrible idea.
The New York Times reports it's a violation of human rights.
For me, it saved my life.
That wasn't the day to die, basically.
Months ago, it was unthinkable that almost the whole world economy would shut down in order to save lives from a virus. But the unthinkable happened. We saw Paris empty, Beijing empty, and the streets of Manhattan abandoned. The world did this unprecedented thing for safety. And when you're part of something like that, like we all were, it makes you think about safety in a much broader way, about what it is, what it requires of us, and most importantly, perhaps, that it's something we build together. More than 60 years ago, Volvo developed the three-point safety belt. And today, most of us take it for granted that cars have safety belts. But as we saw, at the time, it was controversial. The safety belt is an invention that has saved 1 million lives. But the point is, it didn't do this alone. For the technology to have this type of impact, it required behavioral change, cultural change, education, and governmental regulation. Yes, Volvo's invention was the beginning, but saving those 1 million lives, that was something we did together. Today, cars are safer than ever. But in the same way, that's not going to be enough. If we're serious about saving another 1 million lives, which we are and we should be, then we need a new global safety movement. And the first thing it needs to acknowledge is that nobody has all the answers. This needs to be a truly global conversation. My name is Katrine Marcel, and I'll be moderating today's conversation here from Stockholm in Sweden. But our guests will be joining us from the different Volvo Cars brand stores all across the world, from Tokyo, Milan, New York, and Warsaw. This is Volvo Studio Talks. So here in Stockholm, I have you, Malin Ekholm. You are head of Volvo Cars Safety Center. Saving another 1 million more lives, what are the big challenges then?
Well, good afternoon. You have to acknowledge that traffic safety varies across the globe. But if we go back to the basics and really focus on getting that right, I know we have taken a huge step towards traffic safety, meaning using the safety belt in the correct way. Making sure that your children are protected in the correct car seat for their age and size, and as important, safe speed, making sure we're driving at a safe speed.
Mm. And what technological solutions are you working on at Volvo Cars at the moment?
Well, on the subject of speed, as of this year, we have introduced a speed cap on all our cars. Of course, that not being the final answer, but it is an important action for us to take. To start talking about speed as an issue and really doing the right thing. And also the very complex conversation that we need to have on the car manufacturer's responsibility to influence people's behavior to make sure that we are driving at a safe speed.
Mm-hmm. And policy certainly seems to be going in this direction as well, speaking about regulation. The EU is going to require that all new cars launched from 2022 will have to have some kind of speed limiting equipment. Would you go as far as to say that speed limiting technology is the new safety belt, something that we might find controversial, but that our grandchildren will think is completely self-evident?
Well, it does boil down to physics. The higher the speed, the higher the force, and the force is what hurts and potentially kills you. So yes, we need to have a speed conversation. But apart from following the road sign speed, There are other challenges. There's road friction conditions, there's weather, there's daylight. So we need to broaden the conversation on speed, making sure that we have the correct speed in whatever traffic situation we're driving.
So what about distraction? There's a lot of talk about distraction and what impact that has on us as drivers. When you say that it's one of the biggest challenges, what exactly do you mean?
Well, distraction is a form of inattention, drifting away from the task of driving. The human brain is fantastic. It can handle extremely complex situations when you're at your best. But if you are distracted, and it can be for sleep deprivation, we've talked a lot about the smartphones, it can be from an illness or life in general. Forgetting your anniversary can be very distracting when you're sitting in a car. So what we want to do is introduce sensors in our cars, sensors that are able to understand where your state of mind is. Are you focused on the driving that you need to be, or are you distracted from it? In the film here, we can see how the sensors are monitoring your eyes and your bodily movements, not to film you, because what we want to do is understand where your state of mind is. And if you are distracted, how can we make you a better driver in that particular situation?
So this is an example of a new technology. You mentioned the new technology around speed, but then also, I mean, we wouldn't be having this conversation if technology was enough, then you could just sort our problems out for us. Why is technology not enough?
Well, technology is what we use to address the issues. But as you were mentioning in your opening words, the seatbelt alone did not do it. So it's the combination of, well, technology, of course, but cooperation, collaboration, education is super important. Because empowerment and knowing how to do the right thing and what the right thing to do is one of the very, very strong tools of improving traffic safety.
Magnus Granström, you are Director for Safer Vehicle and Traffic Safety Center, which is a competence center here in Sweden, working around a bold mission, which we know about in Sweden, but our audience across the globe might not know about, the Swedish Vision Zero. What is that?
Well, I'm happy to describe that. And the essence of Vision Zero is to say that we should not allow anyone to be killed or seriously injured in the traffic system. So you should be able to move without being killed in the traffic. So that is really the core of Vision Zero. Nobody. So that is where the zero comes from. So that is nobody.
And this policy was started in Sweden, or it was instated in Sweden in 1997. So how has it gone? 22 years.
Yes, exactly. Well, we've been successful, I would say. We have reduced the number of fatalities in traffic. We've gone down from about 600 that year, 1997, down to a bit more than 200 last year. But I think the main thing in this is really the change of mindset. That normally you think that, okay, it's a traffic system, you have a lot of cars, trucks, buses, bicyclists, and so on. You have to accept that some people have to be injured, some people have to get killed, because that's sort of inherent in the system. So that was the main thing of changing this line of thought, that no, let's do it the other way around. If we say that we will not accept this, how do we then work in order to reach that? And as Malin was saying before, the cooperation part is very, very crucial, because no one can really solve this by themselves, not even the strongest authorities. You have to do this jointly.
A lot has happened in 1997. I mean, our cities and cars were quite different in 1997. Any new particular challenges now? Absolutely,
they are coming all the time, and new types of vehicles. You have sort of one-wheeler, two-wheeler, three-wheelers moving around. We had the electric scooters popping up from sort of nowhere a while ago. How do you manage this? How do you handle this in the traffic situation that you have? And also, with the more developed cars and trucks and so on, and the systems that we were talking about, how do you make sure that we maximize the benefit from that? So that is one part of the situation. The other thing is that you have to deal with this from an overall sustainability perspective, and also you have to have an efficiency in the traffic system. So you have to have a traffic flow, and at the same time really make sure that it is also safe.
And just to emphasize to all of us and remind us about the seriousness of this challenge, how many lives are lost globally in traffic?
Well, unfortunately, we lose 1.3 million lives each year, and that figure has been fairly stable the last few years, actually. So there's a lot of work that we need to do. And also, I think one thing to really point out here is that between the ages of 5 and 29, this is the main cause of death. So this is why our young people get killed. So that is a stark reminder of the importance, I would say.
A very stark reminder. And collaboration, nobody can do this alone. We are going to hear today from a couple of amazing private initiatives and public initiatives from all over the world. And I'm going to start by going to Warsaw in Poland, where we have Paweł Krupierski. He's an expert on child safety in cars. He's a biomechanic and a traffic safety influencer. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You provide an amazing service in Poland where parents, like me, can drive in, and you have 450 different car seats, and parents can get advice on not just what car seat fits your car and your child, but also how to use it correctly. And this has been tremendously successful in Poland. You're a big advocate of the rear-facing child seat, but there are challenges in teaching parents and convincing parents to adopt this. What are those?
Many parents still hesitate about it because they haven't a knowledge. They don't know that rear-facing car seats are 5 times better, safer than forward-facing. Secondly, some parents have this knowledge, but they still hesitant because they think and complain about hypothetical problems. For example, for motion sickness, for hypothetical lack of space to the child's legs, for the lack of space to the parents, etc., etc. You are mother and you know this complaint. But what we must do, we must educate them. And we do in Fotelic Info with success. Why? Because we don't only talk about it. We giving the parents practical experience. When they come to the Fotelic Info, they spend 1 hour with our technician, and our technicians show them how it works in their cars. They fit the car seat, they choose the car seat from the many of the best car seats on the market, and choose the one that gives the big stability, good angle of reclining. And when these parents see it in their cars, and when these parents see the smile in their child's face, they decide to buy it and use it. And for surprise, for the end, they decide to be advocates of rear-facing car seat from 0 to 4 years.
And they tell everyone about it. That's amazing what big impact that type of education can have. And speaking of education, apart from child seats and the importance of rear-facing, what would you say, from your experience, is the biggest thing that people need to learn when it comes to existing safety technology in cars?
Many people in Poland, not only in Poland, don't know how to use it properly, because they think that simply fasten it gives the safety.
We have a video of you, how you teach someone here to use the safety belt correctly.
We teach them practically, because talking about it is important, but not having possibility to translate the knowledge. We talking and showing good routing of hip belt, and we talking about the best position in the shoulder belt, but we find that most of people in Poland don't using an adjuster on pillar B.
Malin Ekholm, when you hear Pavel, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's absolutely fantastic what Pavel is doing. He's talking about knowledge and sharing knowledge and moving from talking to doing. And it's empowerment, empowering people with knowledge to do the right thing. And if we're serious about getting to zero, and we are, these private initiatives are key in making it happen.
So more child safety influences in more countries.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this was one very successful private initiative, and we're now going to hear from another one. Russell Henk is a man with a surprising recipe for teaching teenagers to drive safer. And that recipe is that if you want to teach a 16-year-old to drive safer, you should ask a 17-year-old to teach her. Russell Henk, you're the program director for Teens in the Driver's Seat in Texas in the US. Good afternoon, or good morning. Good morning.
Well, thanks for having me. Greetings from Texas. The sun has risen, so...
The sun has risen, and it's a good day. So, teenagers should teach other teenagers to drive safer. Why does it work?
Well, we have, decades of research that highlights the influence that adolescents, young adults can have on each other. Sometimes that's not always positive, sometimes that's negative, but we've found evidence that a peer-to-peer approach can be very effective in the areas of teen pregnancy, teen smoking as examples, but no one had really leveraged that dynamic to address the leading cause of injury and death, as we've spoken of here, young people. So the idea is to create young safety ambassadors, safety advocates, provide them nice base resources that they can leverage that we provide from our organization. But they're the grassroots mechanisms for reaching each other and influencing each other in a positive way and kind of getting each other's backs, if you will, when they're in a situation where there's not an adult around to make that driver or a passenger even make better decisions inside the vehicle.
How did you come up with this idea? I mean, you mentioned the research has been around, but to actually take it, apply it to driving and road safety and do this?
Well, unfortunately, the catalyst for me taking this initiative up was a horrible rash of fatal crashes that we experienced in San Antonio, Texas, which was home for me at the time. We lost 10 teenagers over a 6-week period in 4 separate crashes. It was all over the news. I had 2 young children of my own. I was literally it was making me sick to my stomach. I felt I needed to do something. And what I was watching play out in the media and in the community was really more of the same. And I wanted to find a way, to pick up again on some of the comments that have been made, is a way to activate, motivate, and empower young people as a part of the solution.
And from this extensive experience that you have, what would you say are the sort of the main safety challenges specific to young drivers?
Well, the top risks that we really focus on, again, and provide lots of outreach materials to the teens, the young people. We've touched on a couple of those. Speeding, distracted driving are a couple of those, not just the smartphone, but other young people in the vehicle without an adult is a very risky situation and increases their probability of being in a crash dramatically. We've got the low seatbelt use, young people, again, back to the invincibility mindset that a lot of them have. So low seatbelt use with that age group. Drowsy driving, we touched on that, and then of course impaired driving from alcohol and drugs. Those are all part of our message platform and what we help provide them ways to communicate that to one another, to really improve, not so much to teach them driving skills, but to enhance their situational awareness.
Malin Ekholm, you have 2 teenagers at home. Do you feel that they listen to you when you come home with your research from Volvo Cars Safety Center and preach about the importance of safe driving, or would you rather have Russell Henk send over one of his teenagers to your house?
Well, it does resonate very well with my own personal experience, as you're saying. Usually there are windows of opportunity when you're curious about traffic safety, and children are always open and curious to learn things. New parents are also very, very curious, but as you're touching on, teenagers are not so curious to learn from parents about why and what to do in traffic. So Brussels initiative has created a window that is normally closed, and I find that admirable. And him sharing that today, I hope inspires more to do the same.
And we're now going to go to Milan, Italy, to a project, the Icarus project, that does just this. It started in Italy, and it's now an EU-funded project. We are joined by Officer Federica Deleda. She is Executive Officer of the Italian State Police and the head of the Provincial Traffic Police section of Cremona. Icarus, what do you do and why does it work?
Good afternoon to everybody. We think that speaking to young people is a very important preventive measure, but we need to speak their language. So we tried to reach this aim with the project Icaro, which is a way to make children and young people understand that respecting the rules allows them to have fun while protecting their lives. Each year, the Icaro project deals with a specific theme of road safety. For example, driving under the influence or distraction, respecting the rules, or respecting for vulnerable users, space sharing on the roads, and it is adapted for various age, different ages. So every year there is a different contest, and the winners are awarded in an official ceremony. A research by La Sapienza University has been run about the Icaro project, which certified the effectiveness of the project. And thanks to this research, a lot of young people have been tested, and an essay have been published. And in this essay, the psychologists of La Sapienza University have focused an important concept, which is the paradox of the young driver. The paradox of the young driver says that every time an inexperienced driver acts imprudently without paying the consequences of his acting, he becomes more convinced that he is immune to risk. So the issue is to intervene before he becomes another road fatality.
So the paradox of the young driver, the belief that you are invincible. Officer Deleda was speaking about the importance of not just teaching children the highway code and the rules, but really teaching them, to make proper decisions and the reasons why the rules are there. And we're now going to speak to Tokyo in Japan, and because our next guest has a surprising recipe to make kids do just this, and the recipe is play. Welcome to Mize. You're a child educator who does planning and development at the Play to Learn Experience Center Kidzania in Tokyo. And you have created a play program for children and adults on road safety. Why is play an important tool when educating children about safety?
For children, learning and playing are synonymous. Learning, that is being able to experience, know, and do new things, is the most important play for children. By experiencing curiosity through play, and in a situation where mistakes are okay, it will become better instilled into the children, and it will be highly effective as a learning experience.
In Japan, people are, you tell me, in general, very good at following traffic rules. Why is that not always enough?
Many people in Japan follow traffic rules, and the reason why they follow is only because rules. In particular, Japanese societies are strict about observing social rules, so they often just follow them without thinking about why the rules are necessary. However, I want children living in the future to be more motivated to improve the social in which they live. Similarly, regarding traffic rules, I think it is necessary to follow the rules with a sense of purpose to protect the safety of yourself and those around you.
So this is a very, very successful initiative in Japan and focused, as some of the other initiatives we've heard about today, on children. Malin Ekholm, I know you've talked previously about the importance of reaching children with this message and this education. It's not just to keep them safe, which obviously we all want, but it's also because children are really good influencers.
Well, again, from personal experience, I know that children are very, very good at, well, first of all, as we just heard, wanting to understand the why. And they keep asking until they understand the why. And then they will challenge us as parents and adults. And they will remind us.
So children are very good to make us change our behavior, which is key because the big message, one of the big messages here so far has really been that technology is not enough, and that the technology exists doesn't mean that we will change our behavior in a way that this technology will actually have the effect we want it to have. And I'm now turning to Frederick Carling. You're CEO of Hövding, and you're somebody who've been thinking a lot about the intersection between technology and behavior. Your company has a product which is basically an airbag for bikes. Tell us.
True. So we borrowed from the car industry and taken it into the cycling industry, and I think we have a film coming that will show it in action. This is a stunt person who showcased it. Basically what it is an airbag that you carry around your neck, so it replaces the traditional helmet that you carry on top of your head. And this airbag with the electronics in it, it reads your movements, and artificial intelligence understand when you're about to be to move into an accident. And when that happens, it actually shoots off the airbag in less than 100 milliseconds and protects, wraps around your head.
How did this idea come to be?
It was the two founders, Anna and Therese, back some years ago. There was a discussion in Sweden whether one should introduce a law in making it mandatory for adults to wear bicycle helmets. And this was never done, but the question arose, why did not the helmet manufacturers actually develop product that people wanted to wear as opposed to force someone to wear it? And one of the dilemmas that a lot of cyclists back then had was, I don't want to wear something on my head. I want an invisible helmet. And hence the airbag technology came about. And what was originally an idea of basically just making an airbag bicycle helmet that met the standards and could be certified, eventually proven to be far better protective than traditional helmets.
How do you go about convincing people? Because I'm guessing it must be a bit of a challenge to convince people that wearing something around your neck that you can't see up here will actually protect me as well as something hard and big that's on my head. How have you gone about that? What have you learned from that? Because I'm guessing that something can be applied to getting people to use new types of safety technology in general.
And it is truly a challenge, because we have to remind ourselves that we've seen the traditional way of protecting your head being by wearing something on your head for thousands and thousands of years. And here we come and we ask you to trust this new technology. I think the key lies in some of the things that we've talked about today, where it's not only what you say, it's who says it. So I can line up studies by Stanford University or University of Strasbourg or insurance company that showcase how well this helmet protects your head. but it doesn't compare to with your neighbor saying it, or someone at your work. So we have taken among the 5,000, more than 5,000 accidents that real people, cyclists, have been in. We've asked them to tell the stories. And that seems to be more reliable to most people than even scientists telling the story.
And so it's the importance of culture again. Right now, many of our large cities in the world are being rebuilt as we speak, and road use is changing. Bike use is increasing in many parts of the world now during this pandemic. And many cities it's almost an arms race who can sort of spend most money on bike lanes. Is there a risk that we lose the safety aspect in all of this?
I would say more power to the cities that have chosen to invest moving forward to cycling besides other traffic use, and is long overdue in many cities. I don't see it as a risk. I think one has to take care, though, in doing it in the right manner. And what we have to remember for instance, cars, we are very well informed where they move, how they behave in traffic. For cyclists, that's not the case. So information is key. Now, for instance, if I look at among the 250,000 people using Hovding today, some of them have chosen to donate information and data about how they behave every day. And this has already accumulated to 2.5 million kilometers of data where they tell this story from their perspective. And I think this is the type of information that becomes very important.
Malin Ekholm, do you see a future where smart helmets communicate with smart Volvo cars, keeping us safe on the roads?
Well, we have talked about the complexity of traffic increasing every day. But what the final answer to what technology will answer that question, I don't know. But we do definitely need to share the responsibility of making the roads and streets a safe place for everyone. And the only way to do it is through knowledge sharing, collaboration and cooperation, and all these initiatives that we've listened to today.
Malin Ekholm, we've heard about the importance of educating children and how to do it, and reaching teenagers and teaching people how to use existing safety equipment, and also about how the pandemic is creating this massive experiment in road use. What's your main takeaway from today's conversation?
Well, it's quite clear that freedom to move is at the core of us as human beings, and it has always been. And with the complexity and increasing density of traffic comes the joint responsibility of freedom to move in a safe way. And the only way to really make that happen is through collaboration, through cooperation, and through knowledge sharing, as we've done today. And I think this studio talks today is a very good example of how to really grasp the task of zero.
New forms of collaboration needed to solve this challenge. I want to thank everyone here in Stockholm, the audience in Stockholm. I want to thank Tokyo, Warsaw, Milan and Austin, Texas and New York, the joint broadcast from there. We are now going to end our broadcast here from Stockholm, but the conversation will continue in the different Volvo Car brand stores participating across the globe, and also hopefully in all of our daily lives, because that's really what's needed. And this is about saving lives, and few things really are more important. Thank you very much.